Hi everyone, this is Tevi live from room 114. This is our last civil rights screencast, so on your guided notes it should say part 4. And so the title of this presentation, guys, are the new issues such as urban problems, um, we have riots and the fight for economic rights, and we have black power. So let's get right to number 1. So guys, despite the passage of civil rights laws, discrimination remained. So poverty really trapped them um, in in the cities and in low paying jobs, sometimes known as blue collar jobs. So guys, in 1965, um, only 15% of African Americans had professional jobs. Almost half of African Americans lived in poverty. And unemployment, guys, was twice that of whites. So, guys, their communities were affected by some of these issues I have on this PowerPoint. So, issues like infant mortality, juvenile delinquency and crime rate, and just the extreme poverty, the crowding, the dirtiness of their neighborhoods. So we'll see that. And guys, I mean, this is a picture from the 1960s, but these are two current pictures, so these issues still remain. And so to conclude, number 1, guys, there is growing resentment over the lack of, you could call them maybe economic gains from the civil rights movement. So they're just not seeing their lives getting better. There's a big, as I said in this slide, there's a big discrepancy between the civil rights movement and then real living conditions. So guys, tensions start to mount, and here's where I come in. So guys, my parents were married in the middle of these riots. So they were married in Los Angeles in this neighborhood near Watts, which is like a suburb of LA. So guys, 1965 is when things really explode. So just check out some of these pictures. Let me walk you through number 2. So guys, Watts was a suburb of LA. And there were rumors of police brutality. Here's a picture of one. So the police brutality really triggered really a full-scale, really violent riot. So guys, 14,000 members of the National Guard had to be called in. And you can just see there's massive damage from fires, from looting. And I don't have a picture here because I wanted it to all be about me. But guys, the worst riot was in Detroit with even more damage than in Watts, California. So you should definitely know Detroit and definitely know my parents went through this kind of area of terror during a time when they were supposed to have peace and happiness. It was pretty crazy. So guys, on to number 3. What is the Kerner Commission? So I have a picture here of Governor Otto Kerner. So he's chosen by President Johnson. So he's from Ohio, and he's supposed to study the causes of urban riots and to make recommendations. So his recommendations became called this Kerner Commission, and it was a very important document that blamed racism for most of the problems in the inner city. And here's a great quote. He says, "Our nation is moving towards two societies, one black, one white, separate and unequal." So it recommended, guys, the creation of jobs, the creation of housing, fighting segregation. So it proposed, for the government to spend money. But Johnson, which we'll learn in our next unit, guys, was really mired in paying for the Vietnam War. So at this point, he never followed through with the Kerner Commission, which is kind of controversial since he asked him to tell him what to do and then he didn't do it. Number 4, guys, the shift to economic rights. So guys, by the mid-1960s, many people became kind of disillusioned with Dr. King's nonviolent strategy. I mean, they really saw that the economic position of their people was not going anywhere. They were just stuck. And so Dr. King agreed. He decided to address economic issues in Chicago because he thought that that would get some national attention. He'd never gone up north to have a civil rights campaign. So Chicago, guys, is going to be where there's a lot of poverty, urban poverty, and riots, and so he wants to bring that to national attention. So guys, Dr. King and his wife actually move into a slum apartment. And so, I mean, they do this again to draw attention, and it does. So there are their march, guys, through the all-white suburbs is met by an angry mob, similar to what we saw in Birmingham. And so the mayor of Chicago put down his name as Richard Daley. So he actually was on King's side. He ordered the police to prevent violence, and you know, on the surface, he tried to say, well, we'll clean up the slums, we'll let blacks get equal rental properties and mortgages in these white neighborhoods, but in practice, guys, little changed. So this leads to number 5, guys, Black Power. So by 1965, many African Americans, guys, turned away from Dr. King, and they became, you know, more. They wanted more aggressive tactics. They proposed more violent strategies, such as armed self-defense and even setting up their own separate communities. I have a picture here of this afro, so it's not meant to be funny, but it's all about black pride. But the last line there, guys, should show you how far that they're going. They even want to kick out any whites who have been trying to help them in their, you know, their voting campaigns. They want to kick them all out because they think it's their own struggle. So Stokely Carmichael, guys, is the new leader of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and so in 1966 he takes over, and he advocates that African Americans, I have here, guys, should control their social, political, and economic direction of their struggle, right? Not whites. It really stressed pride in their heritage, guys, in African culture, and so it really emphasized put down their racial distinctness, right? Instead of assimilating, they should be racially distinct, rather than trying to fit in. They adopted the afro. They also, you know, took on African clothing, and they also took taking African names, and also demanded African studies at their colleges. So this is all from the beginning of the Black Power movement, which is mostly non-violent in the beginning. So what is Black Power? It can be interpreted to mean armed self-defense here on the right. It's a clear rejection of Dr. King. And one proposal was that, you know, this is not working, so we need to separate ourselves so we can have our own culture and not have to fit into whites. So here's one of their speeches. Alright guys, I'm going to finish with Malcolm X. So actually one of my students asked me what the X stood for. I thought that was a great question, so hope you're listening. So guys, by the early 1960s, his name is Malcolm Little. He became a symbol, put down, of the Black Power movement. He had a difficult childhood. He, you know, drifted back and forth out of crime and was sent to prison, guys, you can put down, for 6 years for stealing. But there is where he really transformed and his life changed. He joined, guys, the Nation of Islam, which is a group of black Muslims. So he converted to Islam. And guys, put down who the leader was. It's Elijah Muhammad. Here's a picture of him. So it's put down, led by Elijah Muhammad. So guys, they preached black nationalism, believing that African Americans should form, you know, their own self-governing communities. So very, very radical. So here's where Malcolm changed his name to Malcolm X, really because he thought the X symbolized the family name of his African ancestors who had been enslaved. So, you know, he felt that his true name had been stolen, and he would no longer use the name that white society had given him. So a really great statement that he makes, changing it to X. So guys, I'm still on number 6. Black Muslims try to be as self-sufficient as possible by running their own businesses and schools. They did not advocate for violence, but they did, however, advocate for self-defense. So guys, an important part of this history is that he breaks with the Nation of Islam in 1964 because of scandals. And then he, guys, went on his pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca, and that's where he saw many different races and ethnicities join together in this religion. So he concluded that, you know, an integrated society was possible after all, because he saw it in Saudi Arabia. Alright guys, but after this break, guys, he still criticized the Nation of Islam, and after this break, so he still criticized, guys, and he was shot and killed, put down in February of 1965. So his speeches and ideas, guys, have really lasted, and they have influenced future um, black Muslims and black power. Um, so he influenced a new generation, guys, of militant African American leaders. They really drew from his beliefs. So new generation of militant African American leaders. So this leads to, guys, in 1966, three people organized the Black Panthers. Um, I'll give you their names here: Huey Newton, Bobby Seale, and Eldridge Cleaver. Let me just go back, guys, to show you, how bold Malcolm X was, and also here's a picture of his fall after he was shot. Um, so now I chose this picture for several reasons. I know it might seem kind of provocative, but it's meant to be. So guys, the Black Panthers were all about um, police brutality, and they were really wanted law enforcement to treat them equally. And so here's something that they would be using, for their cause to show how the white police officers are treating blacks. Um, and so their founders there are listed. So put them down, guys. And lastly, they believed a revolution was necessary. So they urged African Americans to arm themselves. Right? They called for an end to segregation in schools. Law enforcement was their big cause. Housing and hospitals. So they will read an excerpt of Eldridge Cleaver's famous book called Soul on Ice, where it really describes their organization. All right, guys, we will do Dr. King and the end of the Civil Rights Movement for Monday. So I'm signing off. This is Tevi. Hope you guys have a great night, and I'll go post this to YouTube. Bye, guys. See you tomorrow.